Hey, y'all, and welcome back to another segment here on Gems Podcast. With me today, I have a very special guest who is going to be dropping lots of knowledge and wisdom for us. Her name is Farrell. And Farrell, this is a little bit about Farrell. She is a mom of three, aspiring drummer, and soon to be small business owner. Last summer, she quit her full time job in financial services that she had for almost 15 years. She took 6 months off to figure out what was next for her. And during the time, she learned to play the drums. Hopefully, she could play the drums if they're near her. um, she took lessons and practice every day, and it was one of the best decisions she's made both professionally as well as personally. In the summer of 2022, she plans to launch a sustainable fashion business, Farrell and Company, where she hopes to inspire others to follow their drum when it comes to not only their careers, but also to trying new things and pursuing their passions. And today, since Farrell has made a transition to leave the financial space, follow her own path, she knows a lot about what it takes to have that confidence, take that leap of faith, and really follow your passions and have confidence when you're doing it. Because some of you, let's be honest, you may be afraid to take that leap of faith because you may be in a comfortable environment, but is it that environment that's keeping you complacent? I really want you to think about it, because sometimes we have all these big aspirations, but if we never chase them, then can we say that we're really turning our dreams into reality? So without further ado, please welcome Farrell to the stage.
Thank you so much, Genesis. That was a great intro, and I really appreciate you having me on the show today.
My pleasure. So let's dive into something fun where the audience could dive in and get to connect with who you are in a fun and personal manner before we dive into the meat of the segment. So there are two options. We could do a rapid fire game, or we could do an icebreaker. What are you in the mood for?
I will go with the icebreaker, please.
Okie dokie. We're breaking the ice with Farrell. I want you to share something crazy that you have done in your life, or a fun and interesting fact about yourself. And if you're feeling frisky, combine both.
I was actually going to say, I think mine will hit both, and it's actually related to the interview, so hopefully it will be a good segue. But honestly, the craziest thing I have done is leaving my job of 15 years, super comfortable job in financial services, to learn to play the drums. I mean, it was at kind of the height of the pandemic, so I think everyone was feeling a little crazy at the time, but yeah, I left my job. I thought about it long and hard over the course of a year. I talked to my husband at length about it, everybody I knew pretty much, like, what should I do? When's the right time? And yeah, I left my job, and I had already paid that year for daycare. So I had my 3 kids still in daycare, and I'm kind of like, what am I going to do? I can spend part of my day, putting out resumes and, looking at job boards. But then I would also take, a few hours a day and just bang away on this drum kit that my husband got me for Christmas in our basement. And it was the most fun I have had in a long time. I put on music and just like go for it. And I took some lessons virtually, which was, I never knew that was something you could do, but yeah, I've never played an instrument in my entire life, aside from the fact that my husband's home office is right above the basement where my drum set is. It was the perfect way to just kind of reset and kind of give me that confidence I needed to think about what was next for me career-wise.
That is super cool. So did your husband know that you wanted to play the drums, or he just got you a drum set out the blue?
So kind of both. I had told him, like, half jokingly, I've always wanted to play the drums. I think that would be so cool. And, during the pandemic, a lot of us are at home, right? And just looking for things to do, whether you're baking or whatever. So I sort of mentioned it like offhandedly, and yeah, he got me a set, just a really basic one off of Amazon that showed up, and then he set the whole thing up for me on like, Christmas Day. Yeah, and it was the best thing I never thought I needed.
That is amazing. So whenever I think about the drums, what comes into my mind? Like those classes that you could go in and you could just go break stuff, but instead of breaking stuff, you're banging out on the drum. So it could be like a stress relief in a sense, as well as that self-care, because you're taking yourself out of your reality, especially being a mom of three, a wife, and then getting ready to launch your own brand that's coming up really soon. So it's like, oh my gosh, I could just kind of unplug, unwind, and just be free spirited.
Totally. Yeah, I think the drum circles, right? I've never been to one, but it sounds like something cool that people could find if they wanted to try it out.
Amazing. So let's talk about pivoting, because pivoting can be a blessing to some, but then to others, it could be a bit of a struggle before the blessing starts to come to fruition, because you're leaving something familiar and you're going into the unfamiliar. And I don't have 15 years of experience in the financial space, but I have 15 years of experience in corporate America, and 12 of those were in oil and gas. So it is a big leap when you're doing something new. And some people may think you're crazy. They may say, Farrell, are you sure about that? You're leaving this sustainable job, these good benefits, and all the cliche things or whatnot. But if you were to stay, you would feel like you're dying a little bit inside, because something is pulling you to a higher level, a different energy, a different vibration. So you could really be who you were created to be and enjoy that to the full effect. What was the breaking point that made you realize that it was time to walk away?
Yeah, so I feel like you said that all perfectly. I mean, I was feeling all of those feelings, right? Like, I'm crazy to want to leave this super comfortable job with the great benefits. And, what am I thinking? But I guess, what I would tell, other people thinking about, thinking through the same things, are just, encouraging you to just try out other things in the meantime. So, for me, it happened to be, like drumming, or I also have a sewing machine that I kind of pulled out in my spare time. And, you don't always have to just make a leap blindly, but, just kind of be playing around and testing things out on the side, right? Maybe get a side hustle or take an hour a day of, experimenting and pursuing passions and seeing if anything kind of clicks. So it doesn't necessarily have to be kind of like an all or nothing right away. I guess that makes it a little less intimidating.
Yeah, absolutely. So, did you do like a blueprint, or did you build your exit strategy? Because from a coaching standpoint, I'm a visionary coach too. So I tell people, don't just jump ship without having a plan on the side, because you really want to be sustainable depending on what your socioeconomic status is. If you have children that you have to take care of, if you have other responsibilities and obligations, and if you have a partner. So you definitely want to strategize before you fully make that next leap, and make sure you have things lined up. So a lot of people, they may be working their 9 to 5, but building their side business. And as their side business is building, once they get up to a certain revenue and it's scalable, then they make that full transition to do their side business full time,
Yep.
and then leave. And then there are some people who are just crazy. I have some of those crazy friends, and I love them, because I was like, oh, YOLO, I can't take a risk like that. I know you only live once, but my husband will be very upset, because he's like, that doesn't pay our mortgage.
Yeah, yeah.
Where they just walk out cold turkey, and they're like, I'll just figure it out along the way. But you never know what's going on in the back end with their finances. They may have reserves set aside, where they have maybe 6 to 12 months of savings set up, where they have some free time to kind of play around, go on a self-discovery trip or exercise, and kind of just take that time to just woosah, breathe, or whatever. So what did it look like for you? Were you building an exit strategy, or did you just talk to your husband and say, you know what, honey, I'm gonna leave, and we'll figure the rest out?
Yeah, so good question. I mean, you asked me what my like breaking point was, and there definitely was one. So for me, it was, I have 3 kids. They're currently 2, 4, and 6. And let's see, I went back to work after my 3rd maternity leave. And I had reached a promotion point where I was sort of like, all right, I've been here for 15 years and realistically, this is probably where I'll be for the next 15 years if I stay. And I just kind of was like, is this it for me career wise? Like, again, it's comfortable. I'm, great people, learning a lot, but like, is this all I was meant to do? Was kind of one thing I was thinking about. And another thing I was thinking about is, just personally, our circumstances had changed in our family. Like my husband works crazy hours, always has. And we now have 3 small children. So I'm doing all of the, everything related to, the kids in terms of doctor's appointments and all that. So something between those 2 things, just I felt like something had to give. And after, talking with my husband, at length about the decision, he was super supportive of trying something else. So that's why I ultimately decided to leave. I wanted to, not only did I play the drums for those 6 months, but I also spent a lot of time at home with my kids. And, I picked up a lot from that. I had some great conversations with my daughter, for example. I said to her at one point, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she said, I want to be a doctor, mommy, policewoman, and queen. And it's just like you laugh at first, and then it's just a good reminder of like, why not? Why do I or you, right? Or, have to be, just one person? Can't you try out some other things? So, in addition to playing the drums and spending time with my kids, I also pulled out my old sewing machine that I had, hadn't used in years. I learned to sew home like a lot of people did. When I was growing up. And I made this like prototype for a running hat that I, just created based on things I felt like I would want as a runner in a hat. And when I got to a certain point with it, I did like, I don't know, 30 iterations until I got to a point where I felt like, oh, could I produce this? Could I make something out of this? Could I continue here? And that's when I joined a program. It's called Factory 45, which is essentially like a business school or a crash course in fashion entrepreneurship, sustainable fashion entrepreneurship. And we can get into that more, but that's really, I think, the backbone. That's been a backbone of the business for me anyway. Kind of having that sense of community. So that's how I hit my breaking point, and also how I feel like I was able to make that pivot.
Nice. So this is what I heard, and I'm just gonna paraphrase it in my terms, and feel free to correct me if I miss something. So
Mhm.
your breaking point actually came as a reflection point whenever you were spending this time home with your family, and you were having the conversations with your daughter. But then you also had a very important conversation before you talk to your daughter, and that was a conversation with yourself where you went inwardly to really reflect and say, is this all that's in it for me? Because 15 years with the same organization is a very long time. And we know that times have changed, where a career to some people with one organization may only be 2 to 5 years, and then they're jumping ship to the next company because they want to advance their skills. They want to have that versatility. Whereas the young people say, where the money resides, where the money resides. And there's no fault in that. And then while you were going through this reflectionary period, you're like, okay, let me go back to some of my roots and my core. So that core was pulling out that sewing machine, and that sparked something in you. It ignited you, and you felt comfortable, and you were just at ease. And then you started to think about, what is it that I would like as a runner, and how can I create this? Because obviously you didn't see anything on the market. So who better to turn your idea into an invention and create it? And then now we have Farrell and Co. that's going to be launching really soon. So that's just amazing. But I like how you encompass your personal journey, then you factor in your children, because your children are a part of you, and you're building a legacy and a foundation for them to see what is possible. And then now you're also pursuing something that you love and something that you could wear, because if you're a runner, you're going to wear your own swag. So that's branded by association. Would you say that I summarized that well, Farrell?
You are so good. Yes, that was awesome. Thank you. So eloquent.
So let's talk about confidence because it takes confidence to really unleash our passion. And whenever we're going through our confidence to unleash the passion, it looks like sometimes we need to just shut out the noise, get rid of the critics, the naysayers, and etc. Because not everyone is going to see our vision, and that's okay because the vision was placed inside of us, not in them. So, what were some of the things that helped you boost your confidence as you're launching this sustainable line? Because I'm sure you may have had thoughts like, and correct me if I'm wrong, everyone has those imposter syndrome thoughts every now and then, but the most important thing is, am I going to act on them and let them drive me, or am I going to put them in park and keep on looking out in front of me because the finish line is up ahead? And just silence that and just keep on going. And feel free to rephrase the question.
Yeah, no, I love that question, because for me, confidence and imposter syndrome was the biggest barrier hurdle in, doing what I've done. Because it's scary, right? It's scary to say, suddenly try to redefine yourself and then proclaim that to the world, suddenly I'm an entrepreneur or a small business owner or, working in fashion. So that is a 100%, for me, it was the biggest challenge. And I'm sure that's true for a lot of people making big career changes. I would say something that helped me definitely was the drumming, right? It's like, it kind of proved to myself first that I could learn something new, right? You start from zero. And if you just work at something, you can do it, even if you are in your 30s, so that helped, which, you could relate to many things. It doesn't have to be drumming, but, trying something. And then what I also think helped is joining a program. So having like a community of people. For me, it's this program or platform that there's a number of entrepreneurs doing things that are similar to what you're going through. And you can see that you're not alone in these, what you think are crazy questions that pop up. People are having all these same questions and they're willing to help you and you're willing to help them. And you just feel less alone. You feel like, oh, okay, these feelings and questions are totally normal when you're going through something new. So that, and then I think another thing that helped me is just kind of going out there with it. They say in this program, start your Instagram account before you even have it be one of the first things you do, before you meet with a factory, before you have any samples. And, the question I had and everyone else in the program pretty much is like, well, what do we talk about before we have anything? But, it's showing your process, showing the stumbles and hurdles that you come across, just being honest about what you're going through, because I think people are interested in seeing that too. And in my case, I hope to so in some way, in some small way, inspire others to feel confident, to just try it. And, oops, I made a logo myself, didn't love it. Here's another one, just kind of show the process along the way and you get there.
I love that the program that you went through had that methodology, and I also love your method and framework for boosting your confidence, because when I'm on the outside looking in and I see successful people, it's like, yeah, I see that you're successful, but show me the start ugly moments, show me the hurdles you had to get over, show me the challenges that you face, because without the challenges and the hurdles, you wouldn't have the success. So we can't just put people on a pedestal. I always feel like it's so important to go deep diving, and I'm a big component of that. I'm sure people who listen to the podcast see that I don't just sit at the surface level with people. I really like to dig in deep so I could bring out the best of you and showcase you to the world, because you're doing incredible things. I don't want people to just say, oh, that's the founder and CEO of Farrell and Co., but they don't know your back end story, because it's your back end story that made you transfer the knowledge that you have in order for a transformation to take place to launch you out into the level that you're at today.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Like you, when I when I follow other, people or brands, I want to, I think people know pretty quickly if you're being authentic, and I think you appreciate that. You want to know the full story behind someone, or, the real story behind not only a person, but a brand, right? If you feel better about buying something when you know where exactly did this come from, who made it, who's the person, behind the logo and all that. So I totally agree with you.
So now I want to jump into Farrell and Co. and I want to highlight that, and then we're going to do our call to action. So this is a amazing brand. I should have asked you beforehand if you had any prototypes that you wanted to showcase, because it would be cool to see the swag and the merchandise. But I guess we'll have to wait.
I do have one.
Ooh, okay.
Quickly, if there's time.
Yeah. So let's talk about Farrell and Co. What are your core values behind the company? I know sustainability is one. And then do you have like a mission statement that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah. So essentially, for one, it's transparency, right? I mean, the brim of the hat itself is transparent, but just like I said, being kind of open about the whole process. But the product itself is a fun, lightweight, rollable sun hat for active people. So that can span many people, but let's see, I can show it to you. I love that we're on video right now, so I can actually do this. But so it comes as like a little rolled up visor, so you can pop it in your pocket, you can pop it in your diaper bag for you in a few months, or wherever. And then it's held together actually by a slap bracelet, which is
I was just gonna ask that.
Fun.
Yes, and I was like, is that a slap bracelet?
Yeah, and kids love to play with these, so good distraction on that front. Yeah, and they just pop it on. It's super, like I said, lightweight. And then this brim right here is transparent, so you can see through it. It's also UPF 50 plus, so ultimate sun protection. And the sustainability element comes in really right here in the brim. This is made out of, it's called TPU, or thermoplastic polyurethane, which is 100% biodegradable and recyclable. So that's better than, for example, PVC, which is the plastic that, the retro visors that you kind of think of when you think of a retro visor are made out of. So that's what I'm going for. I'm super excited. Again, they're launching they're going to be completed at the factory July 13th. So then I'll launch my website and start getting them out there and see, what people think. So.
You know what will be cool? Like, I'm all up for challenges because you've been listening to the show. So since you're not a podcast host, I do have a challenge for you. So 4th of July is coming up, and people like to get together for 4th of July, cookouts, barbecues, all of that good thing, float the lake or whatnot. So I challenge you, if you have some more prototypes, to kind of do a demo of your prototypes at a 4th of July function. And because people are going to be out in the sun, catching the rays and whatnot, and be like, hey, I have this cool hat. Like, you should check it out. I think this would look really great. And just kind of do like your market analysis with people that are already like within your community and see what they're saying if you haven't done that already. So do you accept the challenge?
I accept the challenge. And you know what, Genesis, I love that you said that, because it's one of my biggest, I've marketed for another company for years and years, but when it comes to like marketing my own, there's this hesitation around like, oh, am I pushing it? But you're right, just like getting it out there, seeing what people think. And that's a perfect opportunity. So I accept. Thank you.
My pleasure. And I've seen other people like in the past, like if they have an athletic company, they're like, Genesis, I know this sounds crazy, but would you wear this shirt in your next live? I was like, hell yeah, I love wearing swag, especially with my baby bump. So I did a picture for Velocity. They're a Canadian company, and I took a picture, and then that's when like people are like, oh, she's pregnant. Like, we had no idea, because it was like I hit the bump for so long, but I was like, now there's no hiding a bump. So I was like, oh my gosh, this would be amazing for Farrell. Like, she could do this for 4th of July, because it's a few days before the actual launch. And then people are already out there wearing merchandise. They're going to ask, hey, I like that hat. Where did you get it from? And you're like, oh, okay, well, go check out this site. The launch is there, and you could be one of the newcomers to rock this new swag. And then another question I want to ask, and then we're going to jump into the call to action because I want to be respectful of your time. Outside of the visors, do you have any other merchandise that's going to go along with the visors, like maybe a lightweight jacket or some tights or?
So love that you asked that too. That is my dream or vision for the company eventually. I would love to offer, in my head, I have like, leg warmers and fanny packs or like running packs, things like that in my head. So I'm going to start with this, but yeah, those are my kind of visions for the future, kind of pipe dreams.
Super cool. Well, make sure you write down those visions, put a date next to it so those visions turn into realities and not just the dreams. So this is super amazing. And I'm just getting pumped up and it's not even my brand, but I love to see other women win. So let's jump into the call to action. Farrell, what's your call to action for our audience today?
So I would love anyone that wants to kind of follow along on my journey. Like I said, I've been kind of documenting the journey from, for 6 months, way before I even had any samples. So anyone that wants to kind of follow along, I'd love for you to check. I'm mostly on Instagram. So it's my name, Farrell and co. And I also, my DMs are always open. So if anyone else is out there looking to start something similar and make a career shift, like always happy to just like chat about it. Cause similar to you, Genesis, like I love hearing about what other people are doing and what gets them excited. So yeah, that's it for me.
So I will post your Instagram link. And then do you have a website for Farrell and Co?
I do. Yes. It's farrellandcobrand.com.
Amazing. And there you have it. Lovely audience. You just heard Farrell. She is doing amazing things. We went through how her back end story looked like up until where she is now. So I want to encourage each one of you that's listening. If Farrell could do it, if I can do it, then that means you can do it too. Get outside of imposter syndrome, get outside of the rut and stop allowing other people to project onto you what they think you should or shouldn't do. You were created on purpose for a purpose, so why not live out your purpose and fully ignite it? Time and seasons change, and we're going to change as individual, but the most important thing is to solidify knowing who we are and how we show up in the world. This segment will be on 40 plus platforms, so there's a space for everyone to listen. The recording is on our YouTube channel. You can find that by going to GEMS, GEMS, with Genesis Amaris Kemp. And lastly, but not least, here's my remix rendition. Where would I be without my supporters? You know I only think about you. So I want to thank each one of you for supporting the guests that I bring into the community, as well as the mission and movement to bring on content that is educational, inspirational, and motivational while we connect the dots for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Because of you, we're now ranked in the top 2% globally, which I'm trying to get to that 1% out of 2.8 million podcasts per the metrics on www.listennotes.com. And if you would like to be a brand sponsor, we would love to have you in the community. Emphasis on love, because it does take money to continue to fuel the brand and the mission. So feel free to check out genesisamarisKemp.net. Click on that podcast tab to find more info, or send me an email to genesisamarisKemp@gmail.com. Until the next episode, peace, love, and lots of blessings. Have yourself an amazing one.